resources which contribute the added value, and we believe in our youngsters. If we strive relentlessly, I don't believe that there are any barriers in front of us. We need to have strong motivations. I wish our youngsters will have their motivations with them all the time. Our president of the state, and we have many targets, as you all know, in line with the 100th anniversary of our republican. We are going to do our best, and we will realize our purpose. In the conclusion part of my speech, I just want to thank the Forum Istanbul organization team, and I want to thank everyone who has exerted their efforts in the organization of this great Forum Istanbul events. I wish that we will come together physically as well in the near future, and I wish you that you can stay healthy. Thank you very much. Dr. Ömer Fatih Sayan, thank you very much for your contribution. Esteemed guests, before proceeding with our panel, I want to remind you of one thing. Throughout this session, by using Forum Istanbul 2021 hashtag, you can ask your questions, and you can deliver your comments, because all those questions will be delivered to our moderators, and we are expecting your comments and your opinions. Yes, now we are going to proceed with the main session. In our session, we'll be talking about the artificial intelligence, blockchain, and also cloud computing. And we are going to be talking about adaptation. How can we get more share out of the world software market, and wearable technologies, and hands-free barcode readers, and personalized, customized medicine? And what kind of a future is waiting for us? What kind of future awaits us with metal colors? What should we do to prepare for cyber shocks as the interconnectedness and dependence of our digital infrastructure has reached the highest level with the pandemic? Why should we act early for quantum technology? How will 5G change factories, industrial facilities, agriculture, sustainability, artificial intelligence, health, smart cities, and augmented reality? In the data-driven business age, what are the competitive advantages to be achieved with the real-time data transfer? I'd like to invite Mr. Şeref Öz, Chairman of the Editorial Board, Dünya Newspaper, and I'd like to invite our speakers, Filiz Yavuz Diren, Managing Director, Philips Morris Sabancı, İnanç Erol, Chairman and CEO of NGN, Gürhan Kalelioğlu, Digital Leader of Middle East and Africa region, Jing Li, General Manager of Huawei Turkey. Yes, the floor is yours. Thank you very much. Yes, we have listened to Mr. Minister, and it is very obvious that we have been talking about these issues. And we are obliged to digitalization during the pandemic, because we are talking about the change, transformation. Maybe it could not be very explicit, it could be very implicit. There is arithmetical change, as Altos mentioned. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It is like binary, but there is also the geometrical change. 2, 4, 6, 8, 36, etc. It goes on like that. And we've talked about being late as well. So in this very rapidly changing world, you have to be catching up with the pace of the world. Otherwise, you will be lagging behind. And Özdemir Asaf has this poem. He says that if you just cannot catch up a train, then you will wait for the other train. But if a nation misses a train, then another nation comes and gets the train. Yes, our nation is very great, but there is an ongoing train, but you have to catch a wagon. You have to be located on the first place, because in this moving train, the first wagon is always occupied. If you are lagging behind, you will be on the backsides, because the train is moving with the geometrical pace, but you are trying to catch up with the pace on the arithmetical speed. For that reason, you will not be placed on the first wagons. So you have to be very much attentive to the change times. I'll be talking about it with our speakers. Yes, there is a change going on in the world, but some people could be indifferent to that. Some people might say, I mean, why I should be caring about this change? Why does my nation have to care about this change? Change and transformation has difference, of course, in between them, and I just want to say that change is something else, of course. I mean, according to certain people, history does not repeat itself. Ibn Khaldun says that history does not repeat itself, but the mistakes are repeat one another. But the history and the mistakes are in a circle, they are following one another. If you are not ready, if you are not resistant against the mistakes in the history, you will be repeating the mistakes of your history. So we have to be very much resistant. I'll give the floor to our first speaker from Philip Morris Sabancı, General Director Phyllis, Miss Phyllis. Digitalization changes everything, and it creates dramatic consequences in the fast-moving and fast-changing technological sectors. There are some factories, there are some companies that can adapt themselves to this change. But in your own access, what kind of a position you assumed, what are you doing currently, and what are the things that you are preparing yourself for, and what are the things that you want to warn us so that we won't be late? Thank you very much, and I want to say good morning to everyone. Thank you very much, Sharif Bey. I'm very honored to be with you in a panel together with you, and I followed Mr. Minister's speech very closely. There are many changing things, and with COVID, many things are changing even faster than previous years. It is an exponential growth, as you have also described. And also the needs of the consumers are changing, and the needs of the supply chain, the needs of the business world do change as well. And companies cannot detach themselves from this change. We have to understand this change, and we need to understand what kind of technologies could be developed, what kind of technologies must be invested on. We need to understand that. And along with that, we have to be adapting our business models. Among these business models, there comes a human factor. In order to realize this change, as our minister has previously mentioned, our human resources should be adapted to what we imagined. They must be motivated to what we imagined beforehand. And all the stakeholders on the supply chain should be actively participating for their roles. And our sector is changing very fast. We have 150,000 dealers. We have small groceries, green groceries, local grocery shops. As a consumer, we visit those green groceries or local grocery shops for a couple of times in a day. They are trying to improve their existence in the global chain system. We visit our dealers once in 2 days, and we try to understand their needs through our distributors and through our visits. And during COVID period, we have seen that. In different hours, in different times, there could be different densities and different busy hours of those places. So compared to previous years, our world is changing differently, and it changes faster than the previous years. As of the end of 2016, we have already accelerated our digitalization work. It was not just about literature work, but on the contrary, we wanted to increase our human resource capacity, and we wanted to shift our investment towards that direction. So physically speaking, more than 90% of all the trade and commercial operations have been transferred onto digital environment, and it has given us an incredible pace and efficiency. And we need to, of course, change our business model. We had to do that because in the past we physically made the controls of the supplies and the stocks. But on the contrary, right now, we make the analysis of the data, and along with the data analysis, we make the correct amount product sales, and we try to meet the needs of our customers, and we try to bring the correct amount of product to our customers. Everything is about efficiency because right now sources are not as abundant as they used to be. Even though we have sources, using the sources effectively and efficiently is totally something different. Everyone knows it in the FMCG sector, knows it very well. In the past, it was just all about selling the most number of the products. But right now, it is not about that. It is about selling the correct product to the correct place on the correct time. This is the most important thing because your customers being productive is also an issue to you. Your customer must be good and you have to be providing it. There are certain issues in that respect. Technology must be applied correctly. You have to be adapting yourselves. We have 10 startup companies, and I don't want to deem those companies as startups because they have already turned themselves into middle scale companies. They have turned their ideas into great business models. So we have already initiated our works with them, and in that respect, we know what kind of ideas are dominant in the sector, how we can reach to those business ideas, and how we can turn those ideas into applicable and implementable business models. So what did it give to us? In the past, we were making many processes physically on the operational basis, but right now we can do everything on the data basis. Normally, all the organization teams were collecting data, but right now collecting data could be enabled by technology. You can just take a photograph and that photograph could be turned into a data and it is automatically in your system. It could enter into your system. This is automatic. Everything is included in our business models, business systems. Just by taking a photograph, the data is entered into our business models. And based on predictive business models, we can estimate the possible needed number of the product for the future times. And we can have a more consistent supply chain, which is also not bothering our customers, and it creates an efficiency chain for all of us.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have made your business model and it ends there, but the digitalization of the grocery store, or to make its own efficiency, we need to organize trainings. Did you begin to do it? Yes, of course, since 2 years. With the top university, we have a common program on how to digitalize the grocery store. Now there are 150 grocery stores that have received this training, and we continue this program. And we want all the grocery stores to have this training. And 150 grocery stores have to know what happens in the world and how they can go on with the changing world. They all have their mobile phones, but how they can use their mobile phones for their own business is not yet, was not sufficient. But throughout the trainings that we have given, we see that the grocery stores are following their own businesses over the internet, or can actually check out their e-government applications. So they have actually received a lot of information for this, and they have received their certificates and became more competent. That's the reason why the digital transformation's most important part is all the stakeholders within the supply chain has to be involved in it. So we need to also change the value chain as well, don't you? Yes, of course, there's some certain challenges that we have faced. So when you make a certain change in some process, you can actually have some other challenges in the previous process. You create such an efficiency in the end of the value chain, you can face some certain problems in the previous program. So it doesn't have an end or a beginning. So in the second round, I will ask you, when we are talking about grocery stores, the grocery stores are the most closest microfinance centers in our districts. And they are following actually also some kind of a supervisor about on how we have we continue to use our economy, our finances. So the reason why the grocery stores believe that the customers was very precious, but if you cannot have the necessary data, then there can be a gap in understanding. So all the transformations from end-to-end transformation, and maybe I would like to learn a little bit more about some certain analysis about this as you have made these studies. And now I would like to give the floor to Inanç Erol, NG and CEO. Now, a new system is integrated in NG, and actually you are describing yourself as such. You have made investments on digitalization, and there are data centers that you have invested in. If this has become a very important issue, how did this change happen? If you give more information about this, if you are not that, and what type of gaps can occur in this structure, and what can be lagging behind in this exponential development? Well, thank you very much once again. Good morning, Mr. Sheriff. And I would like to thank you very much. I also would like to thank the panelists and also our audience. We have been working on this matter since for 20 years. And we were very much actually a witness on how things have changed. And we have seen that how data was important. The way that the data has been kept created also an opportunity for us for more than 10 years in the sectors, in the different institutions. There has been a transformation in digitalization. And apart from the conventional IT companies, now there are new companies that are coming, which is dealing with data. And within this context, with a foreign partner, we decided to make a system integration. And from one single point, we try to meet the needs of the data needs of certain institutions. So in our Bosphorus, we have a Bosphorus data center. What was our aim here? Not only the data of Turkey, but also we try to keep the data of the world of related issues and to actually contribute to the sector. And if I give a short information, our center is one of the most prominent informations, and we have a great energy. We have also seismic isolation that can actually be resilient to any earthquake that is 9.2 and more of magnitude. So this is one part of the job, and the other part is in the world there are some certain interesting things. IBC says that on 2018 there has been more than 33 trillion data, and that will reach up to 2 billion zetabits, and that will reach even more in the next coming future. So let me make some certain. Can you please talk a little bit about the zettabyte? We know the gigabytes, but we do not understand about the zettabytes. So byte, kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte, and terabyte, petabyte, ELISA, and then we have zetta. So I just want to say that on 2019, on internet, there has been an information of 2 zettabytes. So when it is an immense amount of growth. And from another point, it's an opportunity. Of course, this is not sufficient. And also the storing and management of this is also important. And we need to also work together, and we need to become more closer to the companies that can actually store them, because these data are very much important for the finances of a company, and sometimes you can lose that finance if you don't have the necessary data. So this is not a choice, actually, what we're talking about. It's a necessity. And finally, I would like to say that we want that the information stays here in Turkey. There are different types of model for this, but unfortunately 80% and 90% of data of Turkey is outside Turkey. So of course there are plenty of steps to be taken, but right now, as for the technological infrastructures that we have really taken important steps. And I think that we have a great opportunity in front of us, and this encourages us. And by the way, with the investments that we make, we only can make give service at a certain level, but we continue to make investments in this, and of course these types of investments will be very beneficial for us in the future. Thank you very much. And now, to be kept inside and outside, so much data, of course. We have so much data, and these have to be kept inside our countries, and we understand it day by day. And right now there is a war of chips right now, not only taking the information, keeping the data inside the country, but also in other fields as well. We need to actually do certain things ourselves. There are many factories, or automobile factories, for instance, cannot find chips. That is the reason why the production has been made by others. And in the world, there are different changes going on right now. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Gürhan Kalelioğlu. He is the digital leader of MEA region. So in the exponential change, exponential speed of change and digital transformation, what do you think where we stand in this program from what's your global perspective? Can you please share this your opinion with us? Yes, thank you very much, distinguished participants. And I am calling you from Dubai, and it's been a fashion right now, I suppose. No, I'm not. I'm independently going to be talking about the company, but sometimes you have to, of course, you have to talk into certain limits when you talk about your company. But right now, in this case, I have the opportunity to talk independently. As for the technologies and artificial intelligence, or IT, I would like to be talking about how the use case can be transported. Now, as Turkey, we are really leaders in many different areas, as our deputy president has said, in game, entertainment, in e-commerce, in fintech, payment technologies. These are the ones that are really where we are strong in. In the United States, for instance, the most important mobile games out of 120 of them has been developed by the Turkish game entertainers. So that means that if this is the only area where we reached to a market share of 20%, this is very much interesting. This shows us how we have developed in gaming entertainment, in gaming. So you mean that? So there's a certain scale of it. You can take it from the meter squares of land, it can be 1%, or from the incomes or GMV, it comes from 1%. Whenever we accept this 1%, we need to go further for that. 20% is really a big number. Yes, these are very fresh numbers. These are numbers from a month ago. And of course, there's certain global purchasing as well as acquirements, as we have seen in the media. But of course, it's a very assertive number. Turkey has never reached in the US market to such an extent. Of course, it's only about the American market, but how much does it differ in different geographies? I'm not really sure, but this is a success. Of course, we shouldn't underestimate gaming entertainment, because in the mobility game is very much important as a field. There are certain sectors as such, like gambling, and there are a few others which I do not want to say right now, but in all these fields Turkey has become quite a leader. And there's also another information about Turkey. On January, February, and March 2021, in the first quarter, Turkey has, in 3 months, has received angel funds for 61 startups, which is at about an amount of $509 million. So this is a great number. In Turkey, certain things are going on, or is happening. Of course, there's some e-commerces that make a great amount of a transaction, but seems likely to be that Turkey right now has found its place in the global world. Of course, it's not general yet. They're just it's just happening in certain few fields. In Europe, we are ranging in the 10. After MENA and after Israel, we are coming second. So these are nice news. But on the other hand, in general, in industry, and as Ms. Phyllis has said, in grocery stores or in SMEs, what about its usage? Machine learning, IoT, analytics, robotics, artificial intelligence. So our own sales, what are the solutions about sales performances? We need to also discuss about this as well. In Turkey, globally, or some certain potential institutions or companies are on the radar, but some of them are established in Turkey. However, they move their centers to Holland, to England, etc., because they are facing some financial problems and constraints. Unfortunately, we are using all the money to construction, and we are not actually using that investment to minds, to brains, and this is a great erosion, actually. And let me give you an information. There is two Turkish guys has started up in Ankara on 2011 in Technopark, a very humble company. Eren Bali has taken it to San Jose, taking it to another structure, and talking with 50 companies, and found the money after he grew up the company. Right now, unfortunately, it's not under his management. I suppose he has actually sold it, but it is in a few days, it's going to be a decathlon. So its value will be more than $1 million. So together with Coursera, and there are some companies as such which are become quite prior. Mr. Gürhan, I'm sorry, could you please say the terminology? You know that terminology, but I do not know. Decathlon, it's the unicorns, one higher part. Are we talking about terabytes and zettabytes as well? Now it's growing exponentially, and this is also growing exponentially, isn't it? Yes. And its name is Unicorn. A gaming company has been opened up. Decacone is more than 10 million billion. Yes, right. Maybe you know it too, of course. There might be also people who might know it, but probably, the IPO, this company doesn't have an IPO yet, but we are awaiting it. Should we evaluate it as a Turkish company or a foreign company? We should discuss about this as well. There are plenty of companies as such. There is a company that I met called Service Co. It's wonderful guys are working there. And I can easily say it because I'm independently talking about the company. For instance, why can not the service scope reach to a global level? They are doing great jobs. There's also another company called Robusto. Robotic process automation softwares are developed in these companies. They are very great guys, young brains who are developed these softwares. Let me give you an information about this. One of the most Robusto's great UiPath is the competent of it. UiPath a few years ago, Nasdaq has made its IPO, initial public offering. And right now, the market capital is between $40–45 billion. So this company has been established in 2015 in Romania. Up until 2017, nobody knew about this company. After 2017, in the early world branches, they received an amount of investment, and they have grown. Of course, they have advantages being in the European Union or not. But what happened in the end of the day? In the last 4 years, UiPath was a small startup, but now became a giant Romanian company, and thus has proved itself in the software area. Why not Robusta? Why cannot Robusta do this? Robusta has also great success, but where does the problem begin? As it is said before by the deputy minister, the global outreach and scalability, these two subjects should be dwelt upon. If we can actually focus ourselves on this, then we can actually reach up to a global level. Now, in the second tour, I'm going to ask you some certain questions, whether we are coming late or not, because as far as I understand, there are plenty of people who are doing this work, as Ms. Phyllis has said. Some are doing the startups, some are beyond the startups. But what I see here, in order to keep up with the scale, we have certain problems. Of course, this collaboration and cooperation is not close to us yet. Of course, there are starts, but ups are low. So how do we actually make a deal here? And in the second part of the round, we can talk about the Balkan geography and also other countries. And we can, are we lagging behind these countries? Or where do we stand compared with the Eastern countries, with the Middle Eastern countries? And that's what I'm going to ask you later. And now I would like to give the floor to the General Manager of Huawei Turkey, Jingli. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sherubei. Thank you, you let me here. Thank you, all the audience. So you are right. The pandemic really changed our life, the whole society, to the new normal, which brought big challenges to our ICT industry. So as you see in the pandemic, people work at home, stay online in the education, use e-commerce, enjoy the online entertainment. Meanwhile, also government try to adopting the digital solution to prevent the pandemic. So like you see, the hospital try to developing some remote treatment. In many areas, we see clearly the digitalization greatly support the society, the fighting against the pandemic. So the most people and the company change their way of life and business. And the digitalization, I believe, is become the real normal now. So of course, as you see, there are a lot of changes brought big challenges to the telecom infrastructures. Yeah, the mobile traffic increased much faster than before. The traffic transfer from the commercial area to the resident area, from west to the east, from downtown to the rural area, from big city to the small, outdoor to the indoor. So there's a lot of changing. That's why the radio network capacity and the coverage need to be planned or optimized quickly to meet the people the demands. And meanwhile, the home internet, yeah, this is the big challenge in the pandemic. Should provide more connections, higher speed, low latency, and more stable service. Therefore, the home network quality and the quantity need to be improved very fastly. So also behind this one, the network and the data center, like in naturally say that the data center, server, storage, the capacity also need to be quickly improved in this country to support the mobile and fixed traffic growth. So that's why the ICT people, the telecom people, is under very busy during the pandemic. I always say that there are three industries which are most busy during the pandemic. One is the medical, one is the cargo delivery, another is the telecommunication. So thanks to the great effort from our client and our teams, so together we overcome the huge difficulties. So many engineers and the field team, they work outside, still they support each family to upgrade the infrastructure. And at the same time, the innovation is take very important roles to overcome the challenge also. So I believe in the ICT domain, everyone try to make the connectivity to the people or area with the effective solutions. For example, the operator provided the home broadband with the super box, red box through the radio network to fast deployment. Also, the innovated the air pump solution to instead of fiber, they can do the deployment quickly. And also we increase like Omar Fatibi mentioned that the 4.5G coverage need to be increased quickly, also with a lot of new solution. To improve the home broadband experience, they have a lot of the solution provider, the operator, for example, the Wi-Fi 6 and AI to engage the fiber home products, which can schedule the network resource of each service to each users intelligently and guarantee the service and the latency. So on and so on. And there are many innovations take very important roles under the challenges. And what I can say, the telecom industry has been take a lot of responsibilities to support the whole society fighting against the pandemic. But if we look at the future, if we look in the future, the digitalization definitely will go deeper and play much more important roles on both the economic growth to make our life better. So if you look most of the G20 country, lots of them put investment on the ICT infrastructure for the economic recovery. A good ICT infrastructure foundation is key of the destination of the anywhere. In Turkey as well, if you look Turkey, we have the great airport and a great highway and the fast train. The ICT infrastructure also is a kind of the information highway. So it means that it will need more efficient frequency of the radio communication and more fiber resource to the bigger capacity and more exciting method for enriching the people's life and more site, more data center for the whole network. So this the ICT infrastructure in future is number one. So meanwhile, I believe that the e-commerce which led by the internet company will continue growth under the current the wave of the digital transformation. Even they can go into everywhere to our life. So they were providing all kinds of service based on the mobile, internet, and the big data. So within this trend, the cloud service, the cloud infrastructure, like what Inashve is doing, it will become more and more important. The last thing I want to mention, the digitalization will have a big change, and there have a big change in the vertical industry. That means 5G. 5G will play a very important role on its unique capacity of the using data, the massive machine-to-machine communication, the reliable low legacy communication, and enhance the mobile broadband. These three foundation features of 5G will enable the different industry to improve and the more digital, more intelligence. So in summary, I believe the good ICT infrastructure, e-commerce, internet, cloud service will take very important roles. And in the vertical industry, based on 5G, I believe the big changing of where work, it will be happening. So thank you. This is my idea for your question.
Now, I would like to emphasize here this 5G. A few days ago, Erdal Alırkan, he was talking about writing codes. A very important person, a scientist. We have made actually an interview with him, and he was talking about some certain scales. 5G, he says that is actually is about the fast movement of the nerves. With 5G, the difference of 0.5G and 5G is that we can see it also in the operation rooms. In 20 milliseconds, an operation can be done. And with 5G, it can be done with 2 milliseconds. And it is done in real life in an experiment. And in Turkey, the 5G investment that we are going to make, not only the equipment, but also the cultural investment. Every 2 billion investments will create an productivity at about 4 million. So we have actually spent millions for bits. But if that speed isn't sufficient, our success was limited. So Ms. Phyllis, I would like to return to you. And in this field, how prepared are we for the net? You were talking, we can go out of the grocery stores, but in e-commerce, etc., in these networks, what type of new fields can we expect? And can we just talk, we were talking about the opportunities about this, but during the pandemic, what types of lessons are learned and what types of implementations have been done? And as far as I can understand, in the starting up from the grocery stores, now these grocery stores have to have 2 reflexes. Now they have these technologies. They need to have the technological equipments, and they should know also the business models on how to use these equipments. Of course, we give a lot of information about the equipments on hardware, but we cannot convert it into a business model. I can remember an example of Bill Gates saying that in your business processes, if you put the computers here, of course, you will have a productivity, but it will be only limited to 10 to 15%. But if our business model if our business is done on such a model of technology, then our productivity is going to rise. So I suppose so many computers have been sold. So everybody has computers and homes. Why are we still in the middle income trap? And what is your vision as company? Can you give us your ideas about it? Yes, of course. Without giving the main needs, without delivering the main needs, it's not, of course, possible to talk about technology. Of course, in the past years about industrialization, most of the equipments have been met. The infrastructure in our country and our productivity, our quality of productivity, and also the main fundamental needs of the supply side. Of course, the future should be just as a company in abroad, or we can actually be a leader in it. As I told you before, in the fast consumption side, Philip Morris International is one of the largest company in the world. It's also active in 180 countries, and we are the leader here in Turkey. So let's not think that this is only developed in a global and adapted to Turkey. No, we have developed it in Turkey. And just on the contrary, the global companies are adapting us. So we are the reason for this. We have developed it. Can you give a tangible example about this? And Philip Morris network, is there a Turkish business model or technology that you can say? E-commerce, e-order is, of course, as consumers, what we live. We can actually ask for 3 products with one single click, and there's wonderful solutions to it to it, but for B2B. And B2B, we didn't have it for fast consumption. In the last 15 years, the most closest one was in order to increase the cost of physical sales, there were telephone sales. However, the data, when we give the data, we orient the data to our consumers. We also develop some certain algorithms and systems that can actually orient the consumer to sales, which is very much adaptive to the consumer. It's very flexible and also very much easing our supply chain. How can we do it? For instance, the effort that we pay on the field has been reduced to 30%. That's the reason why capacity could become more widespread. And on the other hand, we used to actually complete our 150 grocery visits in 1 month, but in a very short period of time with a digital capacity, we can make these visits in a shorter time. Well, as you know, you're producing and there are 150 different dynamics, and we actually keep a lot of these productions in the stores. We do not want to keep actually them in the store, and we want to sell it. Of course, there are important types of productions that are important for our customers. They can wait in the store for 1 and 2 months, and it is actually a damage for the company. So it has overcome, this matter has overcome the situation. The algorithms, the smart algorithms, not only for the past, but also for in dreaming about the future. For instance, are we going to forecast whether the weather will be sunny or rainy, etc. If we can have the right proposal systems, we can make the right actually sales. These algorithms help us to do this. And on the other hand, startups, the development of the startups, of course, are very much honoring us. We feel pride about this. We're talking about a great capacity right now. Now, big companies, Mr. Sheriff, are focusing themselves on it, and also putting investment on it. Philip Morris, for instance, has only paid $150 million for these investments. I am graduate from the Istanbul Technical University, and in the Istanbul Technical University, there is a great infrastructure that is dealing with research and development. As Arıkent is what we feel pride of right now in Istanbul Technical University. There is a lady who is going to be a princess of world Arı. That's a great model indeed. Yes, and also in the other universities as well. Why? Because in Turkey, there's a great amount of young people. One of the most important things about our youngsters is that they're enthusiastic. And there are very competent lecturers in the universities. The universities are very competent and also very flexible. And these human resources, these human resources are really very much going to be put in the whole material. Yes, we have the flour, we have sugar, we have all the ingredients. We need to actually mold it. We need to actually design it like a sculptures, but we have to actually trigger these youngsters. We have such a potential, but we need to trigger them. We have a great treasure for this. In order to overcome some certain constrictions about this, what did you do? And Philip Morris International, $100 million of a fund was probably what was mostly came up together with the young people. This, in order to convert it into a business model, every year we, as the Turkish organizations, are making competitions, and we meet new companies, and we are promoting the model of Philip Morris. And with these business models, we are trying to be a matchmaker between big companies and startups. So right now in Turkey, within this context, a Turkish company didn't receive a fund as such, but in this fund, there are 11 startups could make a collaboration. So it's not like we shouldn't think that it's actually a source of finances, but they are becoming inside a big business model. So the startups can actually open their path, their windows to the future, and we are going to go forward for it without cessation. And I see it also in my country. There are plenty of young people, and I so see the enthusiasm of these youngsters. But the industry does need it. The production and the supply chain needs it. So we need new ideas for the adaptation.
Yes, we are going to have another round. Thank you very much for what you have shared. Right now, yes, we are all talking about data and data. You have also mentioned these algorithms. To tell you the truth, there is something called big data, and everyone is not very much aware of it, but we know that it is something important. Now, when it comes to big data, who owns this big data? And what kind of mining is applied? What kind of things could be achieved out of big data? And I'm sure that a data which cannot be evaluated could just turn into a big piles of data. Data and big data must be differentiated. Now I'll give the floor to Inanç, NGN CEO. And in this session, I want to ask two questions. You are going to talk about what happened in the world. We are using NGN Cloud. What does local cloud mean? Because we thought that it was something positive, but right now there is also the local cloud. Why do we have to care about the local cloud? I want to talk about the importance of the local cloud. This is very interesting because many interesting things are going on. Along with the COVID-19 pandemics, infrastructure transformation process took place in 1 year. Unfortunately, yes, there are many negative effects of pandemic, but in this part, we are coming across with that. There is also the accelerating effect of the pandemic. Yes, correct. Especially they want to integrate it to their business processes and they want to get results on the efficiency period. And there is also another thing that we need to do. So remote working is at the very core of the business life. And what have we seen in this part? This is very crucial. The ones who invested on digitalization earlier had more qualified personnel. When they integrated it with the qualified personnel, they had great benefits. And I want to give you big examples. For instance, general investment and general payment systems and fast payment systems. There is an increasing data amount and there is an increasing use on the data. And we have a customer on a different area, a public bank. By the way, they made a statement and they said that by getting customers from remote channels. Within 20 days, they had 15,000 customers. And there is also another important data. They say that more than half of our customers are younger than the age of 30. So the generation Z is using a great deal of data. And the health systems turned into also electronic systems, e-health systems, and also payment system, invoices systems. They have all been converted into electronic systems. You all know it very well. And also the phone systems have been replaced with teleconference systems. We can see it and we bear witness to that. Another important point I want to underline one thing, especially online education and online payment systems. There is an exponential growth here, and we can see very strong companies in our country. We know it very well. One of the companies during the pandemic, simultaneously 2 million students were enrolled into our system so that they could be given online training, and we did that infrastructure work together. And our infrastructure need was growth grew by 4 times, and along with that human resources was also multiplied, and customer choice was also increased thanks to that. And in one of our customers, 2 petabyte data was gained into our environment. So I can give you numerous examples. I don't want to take much of your time, but all these examples, as a result of all these examples, we can see that in the habits of the users, there is a shift towards digital technologies. This is one of the important side of the issue. And on the second side, yes, we can talk about the local cloud computing, and in that respect, Dünya newspaper is an important customer to us. So in that respect, I want to thank Dünya newspaper for their collaboration. We produce data. Why the produced data is important? Why having the data that you produce in your country is important? Yes, of course, there comes an economic value. This is very precious. This is very valuable. If it is going abroad, you can get the value indirectly. I've listened to Mr. Yuran, and he has mentioned important points. We have very valuable engineers, very important universities. Yes, they are looking for some depth. They want to improve themselves in that depth. So around data, if you cannot create depth, then you can have the reverse brain migration. So after pandemic is over, actually, we are expecting such a migration as well. Because if we keep data in our country, if we can bring engineers back to our country, that is going to be very precious and important for our nation. And there is big differences based on regulation and statistical data of our country and cyber attacks by keeping the data in our country and keeping it in other countries. There are huge differences. And before pandemic, what happened? We had many interruptions, yes, many interruptions. But on the pandemic period, because of the COVID-19, unfortunately, connections sometimes were paused. We couldn't reach to control engineers. So if we can keep the data in our country, it means that you can get the service in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or else instantly. And whether direct or indirect. So you have to have a broadband. That bandwidth, if you want to go to abroad, for instance, to apply the data, you have to be applying the broadband width, and it brings an expense along with that. But if you use it on the local senses, then it's not that much actually costly. And also our customers talk about their experience. When you think of the Forex, of course, it is very, very high. So having the data in our country is much more advantageous. And by the way, I want to learn one thing. Yes, data. Okay, yes, I can give my data to you. You can keep it safe, but there could be floods or disasters or fires. So when it comes to disaster recovery, when it comes to the business continuity of the issue, how can I understand that my local data could be kept safe? How can I understand that? Do you have any efforts in that sense? Mr. Sheriff, as you all know, data is to be protected, which is in line with the regulation. It must be backed up. We have disaster recovery center. This is obligatory. Our customers, our institutions should be doing it. This is very crucial. Security of the data is something else. I can tell you that for the last 3 years, our data center has been surviving, and we have been providing engineering systems, and we have 100% security level. 99.982 is the security level, because when data is harmed, then the institutions, then the people are harmed. 20 years ago, I was one of the founders of the institution, by the way. Back then, the security of the data was not put forward as an important item on the agenda. And I was just on the phone with a man. He said that right now I'm in a very bad situation because the system, he was getting the directory and he was putting everything to the trash bin because he thought that nobody was looking at the trash bin. But one day something happened and they just called the technical guy, and technical guy just deleted all the trash bin and he went into bankruptcy. It seems to be something very negligible, but if you don't care about data, your company could go bankruptcy. You don't need a real disaster like an earthquake for your company to be collapsed. Unless you attach importance to data, your company could be collapsed. And in the last round, we will talk with you. Now, Gürhan Bey, I'm sorry. For a couple of weeks, in terms of this chip wars, whether Turkey is lagging behind or not. Istanbul Chamber of Commerce created a vision so that we should not be lagging behind, including public sector. In the semiconductor, chip and sensor business. So I want to ask this question to you. We know that Turkey has to make its own investments on the chip and sensors. What are the opportunities of Turkey from that sense? Chip issue is not my expertise area because for a long time I have been working on software, but I can tell you this very fast. This is very strategic. Maybe that chip issue has been underlined in the pandemic period, because before than that, reaching the chips has not been very challenging, but right now we can understand it is very strategic. All the institutions are trying to find a way to send their chips, and they try to get them on time, but they have difficulties in supplying them from Taiwan or some other far eastern countries. It is not about wars on chips. It is about technology wars, and the state should give incentives in terms of that technology. You have touched upon a great point, because we are always talking about startups did that or private sectors did that, etc. But we have to be looking at ourselves. We are always saying the public sector should do this or should do that. But in the United States as well, in other countries as well, the same thing is being uttered. In the last 5 years in the United States, as we all know that in the exponentially growing sectors, state has not intervened in the situation enough, especially during Trump in the last 5-6 years, in the last 4.5 years. Many things have been transferred into private sector, and certain things are being handled by the private sector. You all know it very well. ARPANET is the ancestor of the internet, you know that. And they emerged by the military projects in the United States. Unfortunately, the biggest discussion point in the United States is where we are right now in terms of security and AI, artificial intelligence. The national security statement. Yes, they have published a report and there are many statistics about it. And United States has come to the realization that they are lagging behind. Mr. Lee is here, maybe he wants to answer to that. So artificial intelligence is dominated by China. Maybe Mr. Ling wants to make a comment about that. United States is lagging behind China because there are many bannings and prohibitions during Trump period, and it is all about the controlling future. And China, again, Mr. Ling knows it very well, has been working for many years, and it is actually a state policy. They are trying to maximize research and development areas, basic sciences and mathematical areas. They are making huge investments. So artificial intelligence is one of the most important agenda items of China. But in the United States, in the military projects, United States, yes, was developing great projects, but right now they are not doing as they used to do. In the military area, United States are also lagging behind. This is something real, especially on the commanding and control systems, on the logistic control systems. They are the areas that the artificial intelligence is very much prominent. There is Chinese Go game. I don't know whether you played. If you play it for trillion times, there are some optimized results that you can reach. It's the same on the war and peace areas. It is the same. If you can develop strategies like Chinese do in the Go game, you can be successful. And there's a long way that the United States of America should go. Of course, this is something different from Philip Morris grocery shops. From grocery shops to ultra galactic issues, we are going from one spectrum to another one. So, okay, I just want to talk about United Arab Emirates. In 2017, they formed a new ministry of artificial intelligence, but we have also Ministry of Happiness. I am also the founder of Turkish Intelligence Foundation. Let alone forming a ministry for artificial intelligence, we still have not raised awareness with respect to artificial intelligence. And a very young minister is actually heading the ministry. He is right now 31 years old. And they have a building and responsible AI nation. They're trying to raise awareness in terms of artificial intelligence. So in this respect, with artificial intelligence, all these programs in the state framework are going to be transformed. This is their mission. Yes. And gross domestic product till the end of 2031 will be made 31%. By the way, this is going to have an effect by $130 billion. By the way, 50% of the state expenditures will be reduced by the utilization of artificial intelligence. This is their target. Dubai is not, of course, developing it domestically. New petroleum technology. They say that new petrol is technology. So the technology is going to be the new oil, new petrol. In the last 3 years before pandemic, $26.7 billion investment were taken to the country in terms of artificial intelligence and robotics. This is one of the highest numbers of the world. Of course, there are many things to do, but there is no way that we should be pessimistic. Maybe I just want to make my final addition about European Union. Eurostat has these figures. According to their statistics, only 50% of the European Union companies, in one way or another, has utilized artificial intelligence. So we should not exaggerate European Union situation. And the basic reason is that there is the lack of authority on the higher positions in companies. Inanç, Filiz, and Jason Lee explained everything very well. Generally, they are from technology companies, yes, but awareness level is very high. But in Europe, people at the higher positions are not digital driven or else data driven enough. For that reason, AI Act, AI Act law is going to be enacted. Data driven technologies contribution to their own business will be explained to the higher positions, CEOs or general directors, general managers. They are going to be held responsible to improve themselves in that respect. Unless you are in line with that regulation, you will be giving penalty with the amount of 6% of your turnover. So old school people should be developing new set skills. For instance, let's say in December, I was certified by Amazon. I just got their test. So what does it mean? We have to renew ourselves because after 3 months, 4 months, EWS has brought some novelties and we might not understand what they are after 3 months, 4 months from now on, because there are new things that are emerging very fast. We have to renew ourselves each and every moment because, I mean, these innovation maybe is the biggest effect of this geometrical effects into our lives. Yes, this is geometrical effect. It is not linear because with the linear effect, you can count like 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5. But when it is geometric, it is like one of the sonnets of Shakespeare about being late. He says that, my love, it's too late of your answer that I almost forgot what I asked to you. So if you are late for a couple of months, you can actually forget what the issue was. Now, I want to ask this question to Cenk Lee, OI Turkish General Director. And this is the question that I want to ask. Mr. Lee, he is asking in English.
Oh, thank you, Shakir Bey. I think yes, you're right. I believe the 5G is the next technical revolution, let's say, especially in the vertical industry. And actually, 5G opened a new track of the digitalization. We now see clearly that this trend is happening in the globally. So there are many industries start to try to their own digitalization and the digitalization transformation by the 5G. I want to make one sample. For example, the 5G ports. I think in Turkey you have a lot of ports also. It's one of the good examples. You may know that the port mainly contain the three parts. One is the containers, one is the trucks, one is the cranes. The cranes to take the containers. The main operation of ports is mostly centralized in the cranes, the crane operation center, right? But enabled by the 5G technologies, now the crane operation can be done in the office, in the air-conditioned room, very comfortable room. The young people dressed nicely operated the crane like playing the video games. So, but it was not like before. The worker has to be climbing up the more than 30 meters high, very hot operation room in the top of the crane. And they should look down always because they should see the container, to take the container, and that day by day they should work 8 hours. The young people didn't want to do these jobs. So when they go to the 40 years, so they will have to change their work because most of them have seriously the professional disease. So now after the application of the 5G, the working environment of the driver has been changed a lot. It's become much better. One driver can driving 2 or 3 the cranes, so to improve the efficiency and also change the way of work. This is the one case. Another case I want to mention here is the 5G manufacturing. This is another vertical use case. And for example, in our factory in China, Huawei factory, which we have the 60,000 square meters, there have around 2,000 equipment placed in the factory. So if you want to connect this 2000 the equipment, you need a lot of cables. Yeah. But after developing the 5G, the first problem we solved was this cable is gone. You don't need cable. So cutting this cable have the two limited benefits for us. The first, you can, if you will connect such equipment, use traditional way, by the fiber or optic fiber or cables, we calculate that you need to take at least 2 months to deploy. But if using the 5G, make the connectivities, make this machine equipment connect each other at the maximum 1 week, you can done all the jobs. The secondly, the cost. Yeah, with calculation, if you connected 2,000 equipment with cables, at least you need 500, more than 500 kilometers cables. Now you use 5G, the connectivities, it directly can saving these cables. This is the first value. Another value that in the mobile phone production line, we need a lot of the raw materials every day, right? With calculation, our product line, we need 2,400 small parts every day. We need assembling. But if we do it manually, we need a lot of people. Also, it's not a good efficient. Sometimes you easily make a mistake. But now use the 5G, low latency coverage, low latency connectivity. We can use the automatic guidance vertical, like the robot. They can transport the materials directly to the right location. Now it's happening. Now it's happening in our factory, and it will be happening in the more and more factory. So enabled by the 5G, the digital transformation will create huge value for the traditional industries in the future. It's happening now, and I believe in Turkey also we can do together. Thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Sharif's microphone is not on. Sharif, we can't hear you. I'm sorry. So it is one of our digital habits. So it means that I'm not very much accustomed to digitalization. So maybe, when we are face to face, we just want to press some button to unmute ourselves, because what we do just turns into our behaviors. In the second round, I want to continue with Mr. Filiz. Please make it very brief. In the world, during COVID, in the digitalization, there has been many problems. Can you talk about it very briefly, please? Because you are one of our women panelists. That's why I just want to ask about this question. Unless you ask this question, I want to pose this question to you, because I feel that it is a big burden on my shoulder. Digitalization opened up a totally new world. It has made everything very flexible, and many business branches have been opened. Is it going to be beneficial for women?
Didn't it work for women? Not yet. Actually, the pandemic, the COVID period of time has really damaged the women. We too, no more, but women were more damaged during the period of time. Taking a look to the numbers, actually, we see that there's a trend of increasing of employment, of female women employment. However, during the COVID, this has decreased together also with the national income. So what does digitalization provide for? Traditionally, people were thinking that there are areas and fields where women are not involved. However, the spirit of time is going to help women to enter in these types of fields, like many of areas, like in factories, are going to digitalize. So women become more and more conveyed to actually work it on these matters online. And on the other hand, in many areas, women, engineer women and non-engineer women will have the opportunity to enter the IT fields. So there's a great wider possibility right now. Why? Whatever we talk today doesn't matter. If one man and woman, if all working fields if all the people with capacity cannot enter these fields, we will always have one limb broken. So that's the reason why I ask my young female friends to deal with digitalization much more than before. Of course, no economic system without a woman can be sustainable, of course. And now I would like to give the floor to Mr. İnanç, a very short question. So in your business, what are the dramatic impacts and transformative impacts of 5G in your business? 5G is a turning point. One is speed. Secondly, download structure. Thirdly, as it is mentioned before by the minister, transformation. Everything is transforming. Many institutions are expecting changes. And taking a look today, what do we see? We see as 100 megabits of speeds. About 5G, together with 5G, what do we expect from 1 gigabyte to 10 times, 20 times more of a speed is going to enter in our lives after 5G. And what can happen? Let me simply say, we reach some certain without waiting for any kind of a latency, we download things into our app to our phone. But if we do not have if we do have this speed, we do not need to download anything at all. Maybe that means that many habits are going to change institutionally and also personally. And secondly, the 100 billion since 2015. 100 billion devices are going to connect with each other. Each device will have an IP number, have a digital identity. If we think about this, that all the traffic coming over this and all the data involved, I leave the interpretation of this to yourself, actually. So what does this mean in a data center? That means that the structure has to change. The edge data centers, particularly that are close to the base stations, will be a necessity. And there's a necessity to make investments for this. And for supporting this, we need a main and a distribution center. So here today, if there's a 3, 4, or 99.966. So we have data centers that can that should resist only at 22 seconds of cessation. And that is the reason why these are going to be the effects of 5G. And I have my partner here who is also dealing with this. If he would be here, he could give more information about this. Thank you very much. And finally, sorry, I'm Mr. Gurhan. In the final tour round, the future has come, but has not been distributed equally. So what should Turkey do as a priority? So it looks like as if you would be in a deserted island, what would you take with you? Yes, you said wonderfully. All the investments that are going to be made to the young people and being passionate, to be assertive. We do have that enthusiasm, as Ms. Phyllis has said. We do have that passion. And that passion has to create also certain programs where these projects can be converted into employment and the clustering, which has generally been used in the industry. For instance, in areas like fintech, we need to find new fields and to understand what these fields are and to give incentives to it. And thirdly, I have always been underlining this for 25 years. And I always highlighted this matter. The most important, biggest challenge of Turkey is at that period of time I was talking about to be there are so many people, superiors, who were talking about technology, or there are plenty of startups. However, there are no intermediate people who can actually nourish them. So in cloud, perhaps that NGN or NGN can change. Maybe the SMEs employed numbers can change, but in all intermediate employment overall, we need to change the educational system. How long can we go further with the existing educational system right now? It's not only apprenticeship in companies. Of course, companies have apprentices, but we shouldn't limit it only. Of course, the state has to determine a policy for that, and Turkey has a great energy to do it, to achieve it. We need to actually accumulate that energy to it. So in every sector, an intermediate person is important. In the universities of agriculture, we actually educate agriculturists or engineers who doesn't know anything about the seeds, about how to crop, etc. So you're right about that. As a final speaker, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Lee.
Yes, I think for sure. And Turkey is very potential under the 5G, also the digitalization transformation. So firstly, I believe the strong support and guidance and the clear strategy from the government side is always very important in the usage of the 5G industry digitalization. So deployment of 5G, we need a step by step. Also, meanwhile, the business revenue return also need time. So meanwhile, the 5G will be leading the digital transformation on the vertical industry. But the digital transformation need a different industry, have the different paths. So there's no standard for all industry. So they need the operator, vendor, integrator, system developer, startup company, SME. They all work together to make solution together. So to motivate this industry go to more and more developing in every country, the government support is always key. This is number one. So meanwhile, the different industry leaders will be the key also for the successful 5G industry application, because they need to be ready or have strong willing to developing the digital transformation in their factory, in their industries to change the way of work. This is also very important. The last thing I believe that all the industry partners need a very deeply cooperation together and a very deeply participation of the application and to explore the 5G industry applications together, from the connectivity, from the data application, from the device. I think all need a very deeply cooperation to design the solution together. So as Huawei, we would like to bring more experience from the different country to Turkey to support local startup company, even SME, to achieve more and more successful in the 5G industry, in even the 2B and the application different case. So we firmly believe that the 5G in Turkey will be great growth, also to will bring value here. We can work together. Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry, I was mute. Thank you, Mr. Lee. And we have completed our round. We have completed the session of the third day of Firm Istanbul's third session on digital transformation change at exponential speed I would like to thank Filiz Yavuzdiren, İnanç Erol, Gürhan Kalelioğlu, and Jing Li. I would like to thank to all the audience who have been listening us with patience. I wish you a good day and great health. Thank you very much.